Welcome to my channel, Midsummer Myths, where you find stories like no other, packed with twists, drama, and unbelievable moments you won't forget. They say time heals all wounds, but some battles never fade. Not in the heart, not in the mind. I never thought I'd be telling this story, especially not to the world, but maybe someone needs to hear it. It was a warm June morning when I got the letter, the one that changed everything. They told me it was a reunion notice, one of those come meet the old gang deals. But I knew something was wrong the moment I saw the return address. It wasn't the usual VFW hall in town. This one was from Normandy, France. Now here's the thing. I was 19 when I landed on Omaha Beach. 19, scared, and carrying a rifle that felt heavier than my own future. My unit, my brothers. We went through hell together. And now, decades later, I'm the only one left. The last man standing. The letter said there'd be a ceremony, a dedication for those who didn't make it home. I didn't want to go. Truth is, I'd buried enough memories to last 3 lifetimes. But my granddaughter, stubborn as the day is long, she sat me down and said, "Grandpa, if you don't tell your story, it dies with you." And so, against every instinct, I packed my old uniform jacket, the one that barely fits now, and booked a ticket. The plane ride was long, but my mind was longer still, replaying the days of sand, blood, and gunfire. When I stepped off the plane, in France, I swear the air smelled the same as it did in 44, salt, wind, and something heavy. Like history itself was waiting for me. But I didn't know that this trip wouldn't just be about honoring the past. No. It was about to uncover something I never saw coming. Something buried for 80 years. Asterisk. I thought I knew every ghost from my past, but Normandy had one more waiting for me. The morning of the ceremony, the town was alive with flags and flowers. The French children waved small stars and stripes as the band played. People came up, shook my hand, thanked me in broken English. But behind the smiles, there was a question in my mind. Why me? Why am I the one left? We gathered near the bluff, overlooking the beach. The water looked calm, peaceful. A cruel trick compared to the storm it hid in my memory. The mayor began his speech, his voice heavy with gratitude. I half listened, half drifted back to the sound of waves breaking against landing craft. Then, she appeared, an old woman, maybe in her late 80s, holding a folded letter. She walked straight to me, ignoring the crowd. Her eyes fixed like she'd been waiting her whole life for this moment. She spoke softly, in accented English. "You are Corporal James Holloway." I nodded, not sure whether to stand or brace for whatever was coming. She unfolded the letter and handed it to me. The paper was yellowed, edges frayed. My hands trembled as I recognized the handwriting. It was from Eddie, my best friend in the unit, the man who saved my life that day. But Eddie never made it off the beach. "Where did you get this?" I asked. Her eyes glistened. "My brother found it in the field hospital after the battle. He kept it safe. He told me, 'One day I must give it to you.'" I opened it. The words hit harder than any bullet. "If you're reading this, Jimmy, then I didn't make it. But I want you to know it wasn't for nothing. You go home, you live twice as much for the both of us. That's an order." I swallowed hard, but before I could speak, she said something else that froze me in place. "Eddie didn't die where they said he did. I know where he fell, and I think there's something you should see." Asterisk. I followed her and walked straight into the part of D-Day history they never told us about. We left the ceremony quietly, The path wound down toward the eastern end of the beach, far from the tourist crowds. She moved slow, but with a purpose, like she'd walked this road 1,000 times in her mind. Finally, we reached a cluster of stones, half buried in the sand. She pointed to one in particular, marked with a faded carving. This is where he saved my brother, she said. They carried him here. But when the shells came, her voice trailed off. I knelt, brushing the sand away. And there, half buried beneath decades of tide, was something metal. I pulled it free, Eddie's dog tags. My heart pounded. For years, I thought they'd been lost to the chaos. But here they were, cold and real in my hand. And then she handed me one more thing. A rusted .45 pistol, wrapped in cloth. He gave this to my brother before he... She didn't need to finish. It was more than just a relic. It was a reminder. Eddie had trusted this family enough to pass on his last possessions, and they had kept them safe for 8 decades. But as I stood there, the wind picking up, I realized this wasn't just about Eddie. It was about me, about the promise he made me keep, and the life I still had left to live. Asterisk, they say. Closure is impossible, but sometimes it's waiting just beneath the sand. That night, the town held a dinner in my honor, but all I could think about was the letter, the dog tags, and the pistol. I kept running my thumb over the worn metal, wondering how many times Eddie's hand had done the same. After dessert, the mayor asked me to speak. I stood, clearing my throat, looking at faces that weren't even alive when we fought. And I told them about Eddie. I told them about his laugh, his courage, his sacrifice. I told them about the letter I'd just read for the first time that morning. And when I read it aloud, the room went silent except for a few sniffles. Then I said something I didn't plan on. If you take anything from my story, let it be this. Live twice as much, once for yourself, and once for the one who didn't make it. The applause was warm, but it was the old woman's hug afterward that truly broke me. She whispered, "Now you can go home, Jimmy." 80 years later, I finally walked away. From Normandy, but Normandy will never walk away from me. The next morning, I returned to the beach alone. The tide was low, the sky a pale blue, and for a moment, I could almost hear the voices of the boys calling out, the distant hum of ships. I placed Eddie's tags back into the sand, right where I found them. The pistol I kept, not as a weapon, but as a reminder. As I turned to leave, I glanced back one last time, and for the first time since that day in 1944, I didn't feel like the only one left. How did you like this story? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more incredible stories from Midsummer Myths.